In recent weeks, the tragic stabbings of 3 young girls in Southport ignited protests that quickly spiralled into what has been widely branded as far-right riots across the UK. What started as a heartbreaking local incident has turned into a nationwide crisis, with violence flaring up in cities like Sunderland, Manchester and London. Now, around 1,024 people have been arrested and 575 charged as the chaos spread through the streets. The big question is, how did it come to this? I'm Peter Bleksley, and in today's episode, we're diving into the events that led to this explosion of unrest. We'll break down the rising tensions, the role of social media, and what this all means for the future. Stick around as we unpack the story behind this wave of turmoil. Fortunately, we've now had a week of peace without any major outbreaks of violent disorder. The police, the Crown Prosecution Service and the courts have shown that they can act swiftly and effectively to deal with the hundreds of offenders that are now going through the courts. These numbers will only rise. The police have thousands of hours of video footage to go through and are still attempting to identify a number of people that they believe are responsible for other crimes. It is still believed that around 6,000 police officers, all of them public order trained, together with their equipment, remain on standby at various locations around the UK. This, I'm sure, has been a factor in ensuring that no further outbreaks of rioting have occurred. But it will come at a huge cost. The overtime bill for all these officers, some of whom are many hundreds of miles away from home, is going to be staggeringly high. But the Home Office have already told police chiefs that they will foot the bill.
This is Sky News at 10, live from Southport, where 2 children have died in a stabbing attack. 9 other children have been injured and 6 are in a critical condition in hospital after an attack at a dance workshop here on Hart Street.
On Monday, the 29th of July, in Southport, a truly horrendous attack took place at an event being held for children that was a Taylor Swift dance and yoga kind of event, the sort of thing that parents would look forward to sending their children to as the school holidays began. Tragically, 3 young girls, Bibi, Elsie and Alice, lost their lives.
I got my makeup on to test my teacher. Look at this. Bum-buddy-do.
A 17-year-old man, Axel Radicubana, has been charged with 3 counts of murder and 10 counts of attempted murder. So I shall therefore make no further reference, as the case will be ongoing. Very soon after the dreadful attack, rumours began to spread as to whom may have been responsible for this dreadful crime. A post appeared on X, formerly Twitter, that completely and utterly falsely named a man with an Arabic-sounding name, saying that this person had arrived recently into the UK on a boat and was subject to interest from the security services. All of that was a lie, completely and utterly false. But it spread, and it spread very quickly.
A 17-year-old male from Banks in Lancashire, who is originally from Cardiff, has been arrested on suspicion of murder and attempted murder.
The Chief Constable of Merseyside Police, Serena Kennedy, tried to quell this misinformation by saying that the man arrested was 17 years old and that he came originally from Cardiff. Still, the disquiet circulated. Still, the rumours went round. A vigil for all those affected by this attack was held, but soon that descended into protest and law-breaking. People had their front garden walls kicked over so that idiots could then pick up bricks and throw them. A mosque was attacked. It also had its wall kicked down. A police van was set alight, and many bricks and other missiles were thrown at police officers, and over 20 of them ended up going to hospital. Unfortunately, it did not take long for this idiotic lawlessness to spread. There was a large demonstration in London on the Wednesday night, and the Metropolitan Police dealt with that very robustly, and a number of people were arrested, including journalists who claimed that their arrests were wrong. Some of them were released without charge. Disquiet continued to spread, as did outbreaks of rioting. Hull, Middlesbrough, Sunderland, and many other towns and cities saw violence, rioting, completely inexcusable law-breaking. Property was damaged, police officers were injured, and the situation was rapidly getting out of hand.
We saw things in the TV, the riots and everything, but the looting and all those things, but didn't expect they were going to do things to my shop.
Did you think you might lose the whole shop?
One point when I saw that the fire outside, I thought, yeah, so I just not watching the cameras. I just listen, just sit tight and wait, because there's no point. We couldn't do nothing.
Some very notorious, what I will call social agitators, were taking to social media and pouring fuel on the flames of the rioting.
What we can see here is you've got a significant minority of people have been, can I put it bluntly, wound up by popularists, etc. This isn't something short-term. This has been going on for at least 15 years or so. We're talking pre-Brexit. It started after 9/11 and then 7/7, the Islamist attacks on obviously USA and also the UK. And we've seen a ramping up of Islamophobia.
A lot of disinformation was also spread, and people were lapping it up as the truth. Please, I say to anyone going onto social media, do not take what you read or see as being gospel the minute that it appears in front of you. Always try to check to see what is fact and what is fiction.
These thugs are mobile. They move from community to community. And we must have a policing response that can do the same. Shared intelligence, wider deployment of facial recognition technology, and preventative action, criminal behaviour orders to restrict their movements before they can even board a train.
It didn't take long for the Prime Minister to take to the airwaves and address the nation. He branded the rioters as being far right. The Prime Minister spoke about gangs of men being able to move swiftly on trains, mobilise, perhaps travel the country, when in fact it turned out that many of the people subsequently arrested were in fact local. Unfortunately, what was a deeply tragic and localised incident spread virtually the length and breadth of the nation. There was rioting and violent disorder in places as far afield as Belfast, Plymouth and Newcastle. This was dubbed the worst rioting that the nation had seen since the riots of 2011. And why was this so? Well, I firmly believe that many people in the country have concerns about unfettered immigration into the UK. They may also have concerns about the rise of fanatical Islamists and the damage and harm they can cause. But false information, when it was spread that ticked both of those aforementioned boxes, made the foolish, idiotic people who think that throwing bricks and bottles and worse is acceptable go out onto the street and do exactly that. Of course, the Prime Minister had to quell this rapidly and effectively because it simply was getting out of hand. Cobra meetings were held at Downing Street. The senior police officers of the country were summoned and in no uncertain terms were told to get a grip on the situation. And they did that. They mobilised thousands of officers, together with their public order kit, or what's more commonly known as riot kit, the shields, the helmets, the flame retardant uniforms that they wear.
Say it loud, say it clear. Refugees are welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. Refugees are welcome here.
Information was widely spread on social media that there was going to be up to 100 gatherings of angry people who were going to express their political leanings, many of which have been painted as being far right. So counter-protesters took it upon themselves to get out onto the streets. There were some spats, some minor troubles, but nothing that required a huge or very robust police response. And for that, I was delighted. When we look at how the rioting was brought to an end, it would appear that the government and the police response to the rioting was effective. The police, the CPS and the courts showed what they can do when they have the political backing, the motivation and the will to deal with something effectively. I have spent countless hours in the company of people who have lost a loved one to crime. And whilst, of course, I've never walked in their shoes, I have witnessed the hurt, the pain, and the ongoing effects that last forever of losing a loved one. Some of the families have been courageous and spoken out about the riots and the disorder that followed and have asked for it to stop. Fortunately, it has. My thoughts, my heart will always remain with those who lost loved ones or who had their children injured, and indeed to the courageous adults who attempted to intervene and got very seriously hurt in the process.
There's nothing I can say that will lessen their grief, I'm sure. Only that I'm sorry I couldn't have done more to stop it. But
what these riots and the subsequent response has shown is that, unfortunately, in this country, there is a big political divide. Some may say there are two diametrically opposed groups, the far right and the far left, who are at loggerheads. I don't like broad brush, lazy labelling of people, because I am utterly convinced that if people from either of those so-called groups were to sit down and talk civilly, peacefully, respectfully, politely, you would find that many of them have exactly the same concerns. Concerns about the number of people in poverty, concerns about the state of the public services in this country, concerns about children not getting the education that they should, concerns about many, many things, because I firmly believe that in humanity there is more that unites us than divides us. I think it's too early for anybody to say we are completely out of the woods on this just yet. Disquiet continues. Many people are unhappy with their lives. Millions of people, since the financial crash of 2008, have seen their standard of living drop. Millions of people live in poverty and feel that they're not heard, that they don't have a voice, that their issues are simply not dealt with, that politicians don't care. And as long as there is that kind of widespread disquiet amongst millions of people, then it is my fear that rioting could happen again. Many people are going onto social media trying to express their concerns, but also arguing that their voices are not heard, that they are being silenced. Well, for as long as we live in a flagship democracy where the rule of law is paramount, people can be heard. People can say what they think, so long as it does not break the law. And on that note, I'd urge people to be careful, know the law, look at the cases that are being put before the courts, look at what people are being punished for, and make sure that you do not repeat their mistakes. Express your concerns, but do not fall foul of the law.